This is Washington Policy Center's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Education. We break down the latest in what's happening in education policy for Washington State and how to create the best future for parents and students. Welcome to this episode. My name is Donald Kimball. I'm here with our Center for Education Director, Lieve Finna. We're here to bring you the latest in education across the nation and in Washington State. Today, we're going to start with our state news, and we have some big news about initiatives, and one of those initiatives has directly to do with parental rights. So, Lieve, talk to us about where these initiatives stand. There's about 6 in Washington right now. 3 of them are going to have hearings, so take it away.
Yes, so this week, the state legislature has agreed to conduct hearings to listen to the public on 3 initiatives. One of them tomorrow that is going to be heard is the initiative to ban a state income tax by the state, imposed by the state, or by cities or counties, or Seattle King County, or whatever your local governmental jurisdiction. This initiative will be heard. Testimony will be heard on this initiative tomorrow. The day after, at 8 a.m., the Parental Notification Initiative 2081 is going to be heard before the Senate and Education and the House Education Committees, and I'll be testifying pro on that initiative because it's consistent with all of our research from the past, that parents have a right to be notified about what's happening in the schools with their children, and to be told about the curriculum materials that are being taught, to be given an option to opt out of the radical sex ed curriculum, to be notified if their children are transitioning at school, because right now schools are hiding this from parents. And so it's going to be quite fun because 454,000 people signed this initiative, and it is the first time ever in my career that I can say 454,000 people agree with my position when I testify before the state legislature. So it's quite great. We have written a policy note just describing the full content of this initiative that's on our website. And the way to sign up to testify on these initiatives is to go to Let's Go Washington, where they created a very easy way to testify on behalf for or against, or just to notify that you're for or against these initiatives. You can do that at Let's Go Washington. And then tomorrow, after I testify, they're going to take 1 hour of hearing, which is incredible. Only 1 hour devoted to hearing from the public. And then the next hour will be the third initiative, and that's the reasonable police pursuit initiative that they'll be taking 1 hour of testimony on also. So, Donald, I just think this is fascinating to watch politics in action, because the legislature controlled by Democrats has decided to allow these 3 initiatives to be heard, but has decided to not allow the other 3 initiatives to be heard. And those, as you recall, are an initiative to repeal the capital gains income tax, an initiative to repeal the cap and trade gas tax increase, and an initiative to repeal the long care, the what's it called? The one on
Washington Cares, the long-term care
Washington Cares
payroll
tax.
Yep.
Payroll tax, exactly. And so those they've decided not to take hearings on, and to hear from the public on, even though over 350,000 people have signed those initiatives, and those initiatives will appear automatically on the fall ballot. So the question is, will the legislature pass the initiatives they're taking testimony on this week, one of which is this parental Bill of Rights bill? And why did they decide to hear from the public on these 3? And will they pass them into law? That's what's the $64,000 question here. Will the legislature decide that it is important to support what seems very reasonable to notify parents about what's happening to their children in school? Or will the radical portion of the Democratic caucus prevail? And because some of their goals here depend upon hiding what's happening from parents, what's happening to their children in the school. So, there's a battle royale going on right now in the Democratic caucus over what to do about that particular initiative. Because as we can see from what's been going on this legislative session, they have decided to double down on one of the disappointments from last week, is that the bill, House Bill 2331, was passed by the state legislature now. The House passed it, I believe it was last week, and it's already been passed by the state Senate. So it's going to go into law. And that that bill gives the state superintendent veto power over the curriculum materials chosen by local school districts. It basically cancels local control over curriculum choices uh, under the threat of withholding funding. That bill, and then there's another related one. Again, the inclusive curriculum bill that's been misconstrued and misrepresented as a ban on school books, which is what the left is doing. They're saying that if we don't, if parents object to obscene, lewd, pornographic materials being shown to their children at age 5 in school. This the left is portraying as the right wing ideologues that are trying to ban books, which is just a falsehood. But of course, the media is falling for the falsehood. They're not looking into this. They're not reporting what the books are. It's really an incredible development. But so that's why I think it's very possible that the state legislature will not pass the parental notification bill, and then it'll just go to the ballot, and the people will decide.
So let's sort of contrast these ideologies maybe a little bit for a quick second here. So the first question I have for you is just more of a technical one on the House Bill 2331 and its counterpart to defund schools, well, or at least give the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction the power to defund schools that are not teaching curriculum they wanted to, or vice versa. That will go before the governor. Is there any chance that you see the governor not signing it, or letting it go into law without his signature, or anything like that, because he's a lame duck governor? This is his last year in office. There any possibility of that, or do you just see him signing along to give them sort of the union power there?
Well, I don't think he's going to veto these bills because in the past he has signed the CRT bills in 2021, the ones that required every school employee in the state to be trained in this racist and harmful CRT, critical race theory, DEI ideology. So he's signed those bills, and he's basically on there promoting this kind of bad idea, as at the very same time that it's being pulled out of the private sector, and universities are seeing their donors withdraw their funding and support because of these policies in their universities. So it's very interesting. This happens often in public education. Unfortunately, that the public schools adopt an ideology that or a fad that gets dropped by the private sector because, of course, it's too it's counterproductive for the private sector to have ideas like this. But the public school system is so protected from the reality of the world that that it's very hard to get rid of something like this once it's in there. But of course, you'll recall 46,000 families have pulled their kids out of the public schools. More and more people are hearing about this. More and more people are talking about what the public schools are doing now. And the confidence in the public school system took a big hit during COVID, and people are still now very wary about trusting their young children to the public schools. And so they're trying to figure out what to do. How do we handle this at home? Because many families can't afford to send their kids to private school and don't have the time to homeschool. So what do they do? So it's interesting because, what does a family do? Well, families are the most influential factor in in a child's life, of course. And so there are things that happen at school that families are very effective at undercutting and undermining, just saying, well, that teacher doesn't really understand the full picture, that kind of thing. And that can really undermine the false ideology that's going on. And so you can protect yourself with not, but first you have to be not knowledgeable, and then you have to be engaged, and you have to say, this is my responsibility. I don't want my child filled with these terrible ideas and that are harmful to my child in the long run. So, I'm banking on the protective power of parents and over over the uh, the interest of ideologues to seize power and control over the rest of us.
Yeah, and that's sort of the main focus of the initiative that would give parents the insight into what their children are being taught, how they are conducting themselves at school, any sort of medical changes that they're requesting, things like that. It is interesting to me that you brought up this as well as the bill that would quote unquote ban books, because both sides of these issues deal with hiding information of some kind, right? The difference is the one that would quote unquote hide information or ban books from is regarding obscene materials for children, whereas where the public initiative for parents to be able to see the opposite of that approach would be hiding information from the parents and hiding information from adults to be able to make the decision and see what is being taught. So it strikes me as the people who are trying to claim that maybe one side is trying to ban books, they are similarly trying to hide information. The difference is the quality and the degree of the information being hidden and to what audience you are or aren't censoring information. I think we can all recognize that there is a level of appropriate age material for children that adults can see and oftentimes should see, at least to be aware of. That's not always the case for children. So it's just kind of an interesting contrast there between the two perspectives.
Well, that's a very good point that you're saying some people are trying to censor what uh, children see, and that's the who plays that role? Who decides what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for children to see? And you know, in the past, the public schools have been deferential to the wishes of parents. And one
Right.
of the very issues that I should have mentioned earlier here is that the parental notification law, the Parents' Bill of Rights, so to speak, also requires the schools to respect the religious faith of children in the schools. And the religious faith of many children teaches them that certain things are not acceptable. And so for the schools to step upon that, a religious faith, is, of course, wrong and violates the Constitution. And it's what our entire country was founded upon, religious freedom and the freedom to pursue your religion as you see fit. And now the schools have decided, no, we're not going to, it's going to be our religion. It's a state religion. And so this is what this is about. This is really a fight over who decides what's put before children, what's put in their minds. And, you know, we're here in the use indoctrination. It is not too much to say. It is not excessive to say that the ideologues, and it's so interesting to hear because it's a small group of very loud uh, ideologues who are pushing their agenda on public institutions, and they are uh, they are very aggressive. They uh, intimidate people into silence. People are afraid to stand up to them. And it doesn't take that much. If a group of people is willing to say, no, you are not going to intimidate me, you are not going to force my child to see graphic pictures that my child should not see, should not be exposed to. This is wrong. And I'm seeing a lot more media starting to talk about what's happening. There was a very interesting panel, education panel at I think it was Como Radio just over the last week, and very articulate, very smart people saying, "This is not okay. We're not going to allow this." And so I'm encouraged.
Well,
I'm
that's
encouraged by what I'm seeing.
yeah, we'll make sure to keep everyone up to date on the latest for that. Make sure to follow Leave Finna on Twitter because I believe you're going to try to track the hearing and again and that's going
Yes,
to come up on Wednesday, is that right?
yes, that's right. I'm going to live tweet on Wednesday what I hear from that hour, from 8 to 9 on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Um, so that I can, just let everybody else know what I'm hearing is being said for and against the initiative. Yeah.
Yes. So make sure that's Leave Finna on Twitter. That's at LIVFINNE.
Right.
So, before we move on, we're going to wrap up pretty quickly here, but we do want to hit on two other topics locally that we are waiting sort of for the status on. Today's the last day that they can come out of committee, if I'm not mistaken here. And that would be the bill to report hate crimes and set up that hotline. And the other one would be the residency requirement for statements on, is it for any sort of funding statements? Again, remind me.
It's a voter's pamphlet
That's right.
bill, the one that is going to. Okay, so there's two bills. Let's start with the first one. First one is the hate crimes hotline bill, which is 5427, and that was passed out of the civil rights, ironically, out of the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee, trampling on our civil rights, but and with the chair saying, "Oh, we need to have a hate crimes hot crime bill because people need to be compensated when someone says something hateful against them," which revealed exactly what this is about. It's an effort to establish a way to get money out of the government if you feel you've been wronged by someone's statement against you. So it's crazy. It's in the House Appropriations Committee. We'll see if it passes out of that committee today. Then the second bill is the one on the voters pamphlet. That's 1292, and this this law would impose a residency requirement on people writing the con statements on school levies and school bond proposals. Okay. And there's been, because of the incredibly fast rise in our property taxes in the last since 2018, people are writing are gathering information on these school bonds and levies and writing opposition statements, and the localities don't like that, and so they're putting in this law to try to silence people from giving the full information on a school bond levy to the people that are voting on it, which of course, talk about anti-democratic, it's anti-information age, so that hasn't been passed by any. It's been, I think it's been passed by one house but not by the other, and so we'll see if it gets bottled up in committee and passes into law or not.
Okay. All right. And so we will keep you up to date once, as we were mentioning to me earlier on that, it's even if it doesn't pass out, it's always able to be resurrected. So we'll let you know the latest status of those. But we can't always say for sure until the session is ended. Once it's ended, then you have a pretty good idea. But before then, anything is technically still alive, arbitrary rules aside. So, lastly, was there any news you wanted to highlight on the national front here, for education and school choice and the general climate when it comes to schooling?
Yes, so I noticed last week that the state of Alabama has moved the bill, the governor's bill that would create a universal school choice program in the state of Alabama, which is
Okay.
tremendously exciting. So we'll see if they pass that through the legislature there. But once again, school choice marches on in other states, and a universal bill, and that of course is the great corrective for school districts that are intent on indoctrinating children in ideas that parents don't like. So this is, it's very interesting to see this as the schools, the public school monopoly system gets more ideological. Efforts to help families get out of the system are expanding in other states. Of course, not in Washington State yet, because we've got such a one party control here. But in other states that have Republicans in charge, they are passing bills giving money directly to families so they can send their kids to private school. And this is the revolution and the wave of the future. And of course, I'm always on Twitter arguing about this, being called names by people, trying to get the information out there. But it's what Milton Friedman called for. It's what was thought about originally, when back in the 1700s, when we were all just when the English were deciding whether how to educate the people of England. They were debating this exact issue. Should the government be providing the question before them was, yes, we need to educate everyone, but how do we do it? Do we do it through the government, or we do it through private schools system? And so here we are again, several
Well, and
hundred years later.
absolutely. And it's important to highlight that this issue really isn't a partisan one. It shouldn't be, at least.
No.
The first school choice arguments I heard from politicians, of a current era, at least for me, was coming out of prominent Democrats. Like, on the national level, Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey was a big school choices advocate originally, school choice advocate. Even recently, the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro, I believe,
Yes.
if I recall correctly,
Yes.
he campaigned on that,
Yes.
and then he, backtracked on his promise for
Yes.
school choice. But again, the idea of school choice, and especially expanding things like charter schools and access points into education, has been a very bipartisan idea. It's not it, and it seems like it's been hyper radicalized into partisan lines recently, but over the course of its history, it's just a good idea that's just been promoted by a range of people who see there is a need, and this is a way to fit that need.
Yes, and another place that passed school choice is the state of Maryland, and that's a
Yes.
that's a blue state, and they passed the Hope Scholarship program there for children that are assigned to underperforming public schools. And I mean, it just, if you just think about what's best for families and think about what's best for educating children, giving them more options is obviously a good idea. And the resistance is coming from within the system that doesn't want to change. So it's a fight, but it's if you look at the polls, Donald, to your point, broad majorities of Democrats and Republicans and independents think that school choice is a good idea. And since COVID, that number has gone from 60 to 70%. Okay, I'm just averaging the numbers. Okay. So majorities of Democrats, well, I'll say it again, majorities of Democrats, majorities of Republicans, majorities of independents think that giving some public money to parents so they can send their children to private schools so parents can make that decision, they think it's a good idea. And so the people that oppose it, of course, are all the people in the system that are benefiting from the status quo. So
Yep.
that's what we have a fight.
Absolutely. Well, we will keep you all up to date on the latest. Again, make sure to follow Leave Finna on Twitter. Go to our website, washingtonpolicy.org, and you can check on the publications tab. You can find her publication on the Parental Rights Initiative. And of course, she will be live tweeting the hearing on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Great. Thank you so much.